success, but chase or just rather become a person of value. I wanted to change the world. I wanted to make an impact in this life, but I was going at it the wrong way. And I learned through personal growth and development, through leadership, that the only way I would make a difference in this world is I made myself more valuable, right? I had the faith aspect down, but outside of that, the way the world sees me is the way they're going to treat me. All right, let me say that again. The way the world sees you is the way they're going to treat you. And the way they treat you for most people is what they become.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a very high level concept that some people that are just into the basics, they're not going to grab onto. Let's stay on it for a second. So when someone is trying to be successful, most people, I taught in a high school in Jubal Dream Academy of at-risk kids for a couple of years. And when I got them into, their purpose and stuff, I asked them a lot of questions about what their goals in life were, what they wanted, what's their definition of success, stuff like that. It's a good process to focus people on what they really want. Most people, they want a pretty wife or a handsome husband, a good big car, a big house, all these material, superficial kind of things. But if you start talking about you will have success when you are comfortable within yourself and you become a good leader and a good communicator. But it's like, that's not direct enough. It's like, but how much will I get paid if I do that? What's the salary for a good leader? I didn't see it in the one edge, But when you have basic things, you end up with a certain peace of mind, a peace within yourself, and a confidence that it leads to. And you can't be successful if you don't have that confidence that I'm speaking about.
That's the key word right there. You were spot on right there, Steve. Confidence. Confidence is so essential in, confidence was everything for me getting out this time. Going back to when I got that 16-year sentence, God brought me to a place called Prison Fellowship, which was founded by Chuck Colson. And here we are. I'm sitting in the background, just watching everyone operate in leadership. And I'm watching this faith-based community just kind of thrive. And I'm sitting back and I'm kind of just spectating at this time. And as I was just spectating, God was showing me, I will meet you at the end of your comfort zone. Okay. God was showing me, I will meet you at the end of your comfort zone.
That's a good statement. I like that. So,
right.
So he wants you to try your very best to go as far as you can in the right way. But when you get to where the going gets kind of hard or confusing, you know that he's there to help you keep going.
Absolutely.
Footprints in the sand is one of my lifetime images.
Right. Absolutely. That's a great analogy because he was always there.
Yeah.
He was always there. I love saying God is not done writing your story just because you're in prison. This is part of the plan. It's all part of a masterpiece. And for so many people, they get to that place and they stop. They literally stop dead in their tracks and they don't pursue to grow any further.
Your title of today's show that you gave me, we put a little time right before we got on the air to give a sort of succinct, direct title that would convey the message that we're trying to work on. I want to say it again because you're right there with it. Essence of becoming. Essence of becoming from prison to purpose. That is just so beautiful. So if I were to give you one of those softball questions here.
Right.
You're describing it, but I'd like you to even break it down a little more direct. Becoming what?
Right. Okay. I'm glad you asked, Steve. So let's go biblical for just a couple minutes. I want to go back to the story of how God created Adam. Okay. And this was way before even Eve came into the picture. And so when God created Adam, he gave him dominion to cultivate the earth, right? To basically rule. He was the king. He was supposed to be running this show. And in one of his commands, he told Adam to work. And this is what changed my life right here in understanding the difference between work and a job.
Work and maintain.
Right. The word work, I learned from Dr. Miles Monroe, literally means the word ergon, which means to become. It doesn't mean to do something. It means to become what you were created to be. And that was so powerful for me, Steve, because I've always mistaken in becoming as doing something instead of becoming the person that you were created to be. And so how do we become? You look at prison culture right now, and how many men weren't even becoming when they got in there. And so when they get there, no one's teaching them to become the person that they're created to be. So there's a lack of identity, there's a lack of vision, and there's lack of authenticity. And without vision, there's no such thing as authenticity. This is one of my favorite things I love teaching on now is men and women are in prison because they lack vision. And outside of faith, when they leave, if they still lack vision, they're going to come back. Because if you don't have a plan for your life when you get out, you'll likely fall under the plans of someone else. And what they got planned for you usually ain't about much.
You'll be drifting.
No,
you'll be a
so
ping pong ball. Yeah, if you don't have a plan to who you are, that's the most beautiful thing about prison, by the way, and I hope that you agree with me. It's a place where you can find out who you really are if you don't know it when you get there. And
right.
And what you're saying in summary, and we're not stopping, of course, but if you get out and you haven't been able to know the answer to that question, you're going to be paying another visit because you got to go through it again until you learn the answer to that question.
Right. And so once again, we're talking about great questions again. Let's go back to that, Steve, because I think this is very important. I'm a prison transformational coach now as part of my calling. And what do? I focus on asking great questions because that was something I lacked in 10 years of incarceration.
Oh, wow.
There was never any kind of leadership development programs for us out of the multiple units that I've been in. And you know why? Because for most people, they don't see us as leaders, so they'll never invest in us as leaders.
Well, something really sad that I want you to speak to. A lot of people are let's face reality, Steve. These guys will never get a regular job. They're going to be minimum wage, manual labor type jobs because that's all they're ever going to get. People aren't going to hire them. And so you're giving them false hope if you think that they can be any more than that. Totally offends me to hear that attitude. And when you start trying to enlighten people to a higher level of self-awareness and self-introspect like you're doing, a lot of people that are in the prison system, they just want to get them their GED and tell them how to go get a job, but they send them out without anything any different other than this is what I'm destined to and I'm a failure.
Right.
It upsets me so much. Can I interrupt you just for a second?
Absolutely, Steve. Come on.
What we need to get to, we're not going to get to it today. We're at the 40-minute mark or so, another 10 minutes, give or take. I want to change the title of today's show and just put part 1, and then it's open-ended because they can go part 2, part 3, part 4, whatever. What I'd like to do is have you continue exactly like you are, just setting the table because I got so many questions that I need to know answers to for how you do it, where you've gone with it, in other words, I got a lot of details that I want to bring out more because right now you're speaking a lot to your motivation and somewhat of what you went through that you didn't get right that kept you in a limbo kind of a place. But I want to take this as one of those stories where, boy, you get to see all the tragedy and the horror and the pain in the first part, but then you see where he took it, what you do with it now. And so do you think that if we go for another 10 minutes, give or take, as we are, that we can come right back very quickly and do a follow-up that shows, in other words, we can preach what needs to be, but until they get up and embrace it and we give them the tools so that they can have the success with it and provide the mentorship and all the other things that are the other missing pieces, they still won't succeed is my belief. Like, you've got a beautiful message. And what you're saying, I can tell you, I know from experience, is exactly right on. But it's still not going to be easy because I want you to come back to where you were. I don't want to interrupt you too much, but what I did is I interrupted you so we can go another 50 minutes, for part 2. But here's something that I'm going to give you an expression, and this will be brought out more in part two. It's too early to bring it out now. One of the things that I've always said, a person can be so willing to change. He can take all the programs that are available. He can get every certificate available in prison to fill in the gap on his resume and go through transformational changes in his mind and believe that he's ready to face the world when he gets out. But when he gets out, if he's not loved and embraced in a sense of community, life is going to get in the way, because I've said this from the very beginning. One of the hardest facts of life that I want to share with you is if a person has a baby and that baby is hungry and the person has to feed his baby, but he doesn't have a job or the wherewithal to be able to do it the right way, he's going to do whatever he's got to do because he will not watch his baby starve. You won't, I won't, nobody should. But the bottom line is that life gets in the way. Everybody comes out with this incredible attitude that they're ready, but when they come out, they fall. And you're going to continue to show us from personal experience, which you've lived through, how you came to know the Lord, and the Lord tells you how you need to do this, how we can help as many people as possible to go into a path where they're not waiting to fall, where they're going to thrive on the outside and not just on the inside. How about that?
Absolutely.
So
totally agree.
Why don't you go whatever you want to go, and I'll try not to interrupt you because you're amazing to listen to. I'm excited getting to know you.
Right. So we're gonna actually do part two then.
Yeah, let's finish up part one then and speak more of John Maxwell. And you never did answer me though. So how did you get John Maxwell to let you get certified while you were incarcerated? Because that's highly unusual from what I know.
Yeah, well, I didn't actually get certified while I was in prison. I joined the John Maxwell team while I was incarcerated. The funny thing about that was, as God was cultivating me in leadership at that time, I said earlier that, God will meet you at the end of your comfort zone. There's a lot of guys that are in prison that are just sitting in an area of comfort. And I've heard this one time, Steve, it says, the mediocre person will always be at his best because he'll never strive for anything more or anything less.
Yeah.
Because his place of comfort it is just resting. And so for most guys, they come to prison thinking it's just a timeout. Everything's a freebie and they don't invest in themselves.
That's so sad. I see it. It's so sad.
I mean, you said it earlier, Steve. You said that, going to prison was people probably don't believe me, but I'm telling you, I praise God. I thank God for these last 5 years of incarceration because I discovered so much more about who I was created to be.
Yeah.
I have so much vision. I have so much confidence in who I am now. I can share my story to anybody now. I don't have to hide that shameful part of my past because that's how God raised me up, and I'm so passionate now, Steve, because I know that I'm called to make an impact in the prison culture because that's one of the places where I add the most value at now because of my experience. My experience, it has happened to me. Now it will flow through me when I speak. And God, I thank God that he's chosen me to be a vessel, not only a vessel, but as a person that can speak to that culture versus someone that hasn't gone through that experience. I find that so valuable in my life now that God has equipped me for that.
Wow. I just want to say a quick thank you. One of the sadnesses that I experienced in my life, and if you heard all the background on me and all my 135 shows, give or take, I share a lot. And when I go into prisons, I feel so comfortable because the people are so real. Not everybody, of course, but I meet such real, beautiful people because they've dropped all the pretensions. They're not doing all this conditional stuff and, whatever. And I want to share those experiences with people, but I almost always go into prison by myself. Every now and then I got somebody that wants to go in with me that's going to give a testimony or something. But I get so high on life and God and purpose and the love that we're picking up. I'm so loved when I go in because they don't have too many visitors and they've accepted me. Most everybody does. I connect because I love them. And I say love them. I love incarcerated men. And when a lifer told me in prison a month ago, he said, the best thing that ever happened to me was getting